Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Scott Sinclair. I'm the Senior Manager of Programs here at Cancer and Careers, and I want to welcome you all to today's webinar. For those of you who are joining from your phone, please let us know by sending an email to cancerandcareers@cew.org with your name and the phone number that you're dialing in from. That way we can confirm your attendance and make sure that you receive all of the relevant follow-up information after the webinar. If you are new to Cancer and Careers, first of all, welcome. We're glad to have you. We are a national nonprofit and the only program of its kind solely dedicated to empowering and educating people with cancer to thrive in their work environment. This is a list of all of our free programs and services that we offer. Our comprehensive website is available in both English and Spanish, and it's the heart of everything that we do. On there, you can find various support services, including our resume review service, access to career coaches. Our educational blog and newsfeed are both rich resources where those who have been diagnosed, their caregivers, employers, healthcare professionals can stay current on topics related to work and cancer. And our free publication library is also available in both English and Spanish, and provides tangible, easy to digest information on working and looking for work after a cancer diagnosis. And those are available in both hard copy and PDF formats. We also offer numerous events each year, from hour-long webinars to full-day events. And I'll be back after Carla speaks to tell you a little bit more about what we have coming up. Now, for those of you who are seeking continuing education credits today, this slide lists all of the organizations who have accredited today's webinar, as well as the required steps for getting a certificate. This information is also available on our website, and a link to the evaluation and post-test will be shared at the conclusion of today's webinar. So please take the time to complete them if you can. If not, we'll be sending an email tomorrow, Thursday, June 6th, no later than 5 p.m. Eastern with that information again. So if you don't have the time today or you lose the link, that's totally fine. Check your email tomorrow and you'll have everything there. Also, for those of you planning on requesting continuing education credits, our accrediting bodies require us to share this slide and to let you know that there are no conflicts of interest to report. Now, as you might know, Zoom has a lot of great features which you can use to interact with this event, with us and with other attendees. You will see a Q&A box at the bottom. After Carla is finished talking, I'll jump back on and we'll moderate a Q&A for you. So if you have any questions throughout her presentation, drop them in the Q&A box. And we know the importance of privacy, so there is an option to submit your questions anonymously there. And we'll do our best to get to everybody's questions. If we don't get to yours today, or if you think of something later on, please shoot us an email at cancerandcareers@cew.org, and we'll get you an answer later on. You'll also see a chat box in your features panel. Feel free to use that chat box to communicate with us, with other attendees. However, it's important to note that the chat box is not private and it will show your first and last name. So that's something to be mindful of if or when you choose to engage in the chats. Also, please try not to put the Q&A questions in the chat box as we may miss them there. All the questions for Q&A should go in the Q&A box. Also, please note that today's presentation is copyrighted, therefore the use of AI assistants and or transcribing recording devices of any kind by attendees is not allowed. Those found to be using AI or other recording or transcription software during CAC programming will be removed from the event. They will be permitted to return without the AI recording or transcription software. As you can see, real-time closed captioning is available for today's event for those who need it. And a captioned recording of the webinar will also be archived on our website following the session. To request any additional reasonable accommodations, please send us an email at cancerandcareers@cew.org at least 24 hours before any future sessions. So thanks in part to Genentech and P&G Beauty, Cancer and Careers is really proud to offer our 10th year of the Balancing Work and Cancer webinar series, which was created to provide anyone whose life has been touched by cancer with concise, targeted information about work-related issues that arise after a diagnosis. Additionally, we'd like to recognize Cancer and Careers as year-round sponsors who support all of our core programs and allow us to continue providing our resources and services free of charge. Now, I think we can all agree that maintaining a healthy diet can be challenging in general. For someone who's been diagnosed with cancer and is working, eating well can be even harder depending on things like schedule, treatment, and work environment. So to help guide us through, I am thrilled to introduce Carla Giglio. Carla is a level 2 clinical dietitian nutritionist and works in cancer treatment and prevention community settings. Carla's worked with patients who are undergoing various types of cancer therapies and those who are interested in improving their eating habits and food choices. She has a strong interest and background in culinary arts, and her focus is to help patients modify their favorite meals and inspire them to cook more healthy meals at home. Carla joined Memorial Sloan Kettering's Ralph Lauren Center in 2020. She graduated from New York University with a Master of Arts in Nutrition, Food Studies, and Public Health, and received her Bachelor of Science in Nutrition and Dietetics from the University of Puerto Rico. Carla is a registered dietitian nutritionist with the CDR and a certified dietitian nutritionist in New York State. So without any further ado, I will hand things over to Carla. Welcome, Carla.
Hi, thank you, Scott, for that lovely introduction. And hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. Today, I will attempt to. This session is jam-packed with information. My main goal is to define what eating healthy or eating well is, and give you some tips of managing symptoms during treatment, and give you also some tips and ideas on how to eat well when we are balancing work and life in general. So let's start with what is a healthy diet? That could be different for many individuals, right? But when we define a healthy diet, we want to promote what we call a plant-based diet. This means that two-thirds of your plate incorporating plant-based foods such as grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, beans, and soy is also included there. And then one-third animal-based foods such as fish, poultry, dairy, and red meats. And these could look different across different food cultures and preferences, right? This is a good example. We have half of our plate vegetables, a quarter of the plate are starches, and then our protein. This is another example of a more Hispanic type plate where we have some more beans and legumes. I think this is rice and pigeon peas, arroz con gandules, my favorite. Some chicken and half of a plate with a variety of vegetables. And as you can see, we have lots of colors and different textures. This is a more of a West African inspired plate with cooked greens, yellow rice, and this is, so I think this is pork or ribs. And then we have a more southern example with greens, mac and cheese, and chicken. And so for you to see that this could look different for everyone, but as long as we are basing most of our plate with plants, that is the main goal, especially for cancer prevention and prevention of chronic diseases. So let's go one by one. Why do we want plant-based focus? First of all, we are going to get energy, we're going to get vitamins and minerals, antioxidants, lots of fiber and protein, all important to maintain health and especially to go through treatment, staying strong and managing side effects and just staying healthy overall. Antioxidants are molecules that help decrease free radicals in the body. And these free radicals are also molecules that are produced from different processes around our body, detoxification processes, burning calories, etc. And so the antioxidants really help decrease low-grade inflammation, and also it helps improve our immune system and overall health. Antioxidants are vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, and also another example of an antioxidant is selenium. Phytochemicals, which you can also find in plant-based foods, are naturally occurring in plants. These are in the colors of the fruits and vegetables. That's why when you hear eat the rainbow, that's what we mean. We want you to get all these colors because you're getting all these phytochemicals. They act as antioxidants as well. And as few examples are carotenoids, flavonoids, indoles, and isoflavones, all of which are really important and easy to find. For example, vitamin A, we find in leafy greens, carrots, broccoli, sweet potatoes. In dairy, you could see it in a fortified dairy or whole milk. You'll have some vitamin A. Vitamin A is known as a liposoluble vitamin. And so it you can find it in the egg yolk and in salmon, which is a fatty fish as well. Um, and vitamin C, as we know it, is in most fruits: oranges, grapefruit, tangerines, strawberries, broccoli. Vitamin E is another liposoluble vitamin that we can find in vegetable oils. We find it in whole grains, fortified cereals, nuts and seeds, and peanut butter. And selenium is also easily found in seafood, cereal, grains, eggs, dairy, and Brazil nuts. Carotenoids are mostly from the color red, orange, and yellow. A few examples of carotenoids are beta carotene, lycopene, and lutein. Anything red, orange, deep yellows, dark green, and you'll find it also in the leafy vegetables. And then flavonoids and isoflavones you'll see mostly in berries, apples, legumes, teas, citrus fruits, and then the indoles you'll find them more in the cruciferous vegetables. And also another reason why we want a plant-based diet is fiber. Fiber is considered a non-digestible carbohydrate, and you'll find it mostly in the skins of fruits and vegetables, in the pulp of fruits and vegetables. And it has many health benefits, including weight management, managing blood glucose for people with diabetes. It helps reduce heart disease, and it also helps improve digestion. In general, we recommend people to consume between 25 to 35 grams of fiber per day, and you'll get it mostly from plant-based food sources: whole grains, vegetables, beans, legumes, fruits, and vegetables. Um, I would recommend, if you're not used to having a lot of fiber, it's always good to start incorporating it gradually. It's not good to going from zero fiber to having 25 grams of fiber the next day. So it's always good to see what are you actually eating and where can you start implementing more plant-based foods or start introducing high fiber foods in your meals, and increasing it gradually and making sure that you're working with your hydration if it's something that you want to improve. And then we have our plant-based proteins. You can find protein in whole grains, legumes. It's important for energy and muscle building. It also will provide us vitamins and minerals. If you are vegan or vegetarian, it's important to supplement with B12, calcium, and vitamin D. These nutrients you will find more in animal food sources. And then we have our animal sources. They're also valid and important. They provide also energy, and it's important in muscle building. These sources, it's good to include some animal sources because we will get B vitamins, omega-3 fatty acids, and we'll also have more easy iron that is easier to absorb. It is recommended to limit processed meats, things like sausage, bacon, ham, salami, prosciutto. These are good to limit, and it's also good to limit red meats, beef, lamb, veal, and things of the like, because just for cancer prevention and to reduce risk for chronic diseases. And we'll talk a little bit more when we get into survivorship and eating well during treatment. So, how can we start implementing a more balanced diet at work? Well, number one tip that I always say is planning ahead. You know, when you have a set schedule and you know that you're gonna be very busy, and if you're not at least thinking of about what you're going to eat, it's gonna be harder for you to eat well at work. So try to prepare meals the night or the day before. Plan for bringing high protein snacks, especially during treatment. We need a little bit of extra protein. So see if there is a way where you can store your lunch at work, or if not, see if you can find snacks that are not necessarily, they don't need refrigeration. And if you know what restaurants or places you have nearby, planning ahead in terms of what can you order. Maybe there is a vegetable option at the Chinese restaurant next door, and I can order some vegetables, rice, and chicken. If you think ahead and you look at menus, you'll feel more prepared, and the eating will be less stressful, because I know that when we are in treatment, oftentimes we need to make sure that we're eating well. And when we are not planning ahead, we could be a little bit stressed, and sort of perhaps eating things, overly processed foods often. And so we want to make sure that we're including those plant-based options and the protein, and planning ahead. It's the way to go. So everyone has their style. If it's thinking ahead or writing it down, or at least planning 3 days, 2 days ahead, whatever works for you, but try to at least plan ahead your meals. These are some ingredients that I'd like to have, that are convenient, affordable, and you could have to cook simple and nutritious meals at home. Things like, in the cupboard, I like to have my whole grains. I like to have oils, vinegar. I like to have some canned proteins, tuna, sardines, salmons. Canned beans and chickpeas are healthy and perfectly great and very convenient to make quick meals. Tomato sauces, chopped tomatoes are great for making stews and the like. So I like to have all of these in hand, and I like to have an inventory, especially when I'm planning. I like to have like a quick list in my fridge or near my cupboard, where I sort of highlight whatever I have used or what I need to buy. And so I'm sort of making a list as I use the ingredients. And that's another way of, staying organized and saving time when it comes to planning and preparing meals. Frozen fruits and vegetables are perfectly healthy and convenient. I also like pre-washed greens, and they're very convenient. Obviously, I love my garlic and onions, having my proteins in the refrigerator. Um, we want you to eat the rainbow, right? We want you to have a variety of colors, because we want you to have all those antioxidants and phytochemicals. But it doesn't mean that you have to eat a different color in each meal, or every day a different vegetable, right? You can, in my case right now, over the summer I'm by myself, so I try to buy weekly. I buy different vegetables, or every 3 days I will use the vegetables that I have, and then I'll buy new ones. And when I buy new ones, I try to switch it up. And that's a good way of adding variety without, we don't need to to add that many vegetables in a week, right? As long as we're adding variety with your week, in your month, that's what we want you to do. I love to have eggs, even though lately they're kind of pricey, but there are cheaper than red meats, and it's a great source of protein. The same as plant-based proteins like tofu. It's really inexpensive. Tempeh is really inexpensive, and it's a great source of protein. And they're not here, but that's another option that is really, really good. Dressings and condiments can make a difference when it comes to preparing meals, especially for a salad or a sandwich, to add flavor and moisture. And so I always try to have different ones available to add flavor to my veggies. And then these are some examples of quick meals that you can do. Um, with leftovers or with some of the items that I mentioned. A stir fry is something that you can, if you have some of the ingredients already prepped, let's say you made brown rice, and you have leftover rice, you can use it to make a quick stir fry and add some frozen vegetables, some frozen pineapple. You can have a sauce with a little salt. You can use liquid aminos if you're not wanting to have a lot of sodium, but go for low sodium soy sauce or tamari, and chicken breast chunks, or you could do even tofu. So if you have the sauce ready to go, the frozen vegetables are already sort of chopped for you. You can just whip up a really high protein and more plant-based meal that is really quick. Salad is another favorite, especially for the summer, and it's great for meal prepping. So you can add your favorite veggies, have your add a protein, and think about toppings, right? It can be grains, it can be dry fruit, avocado, some nuts to add extra calories and protein. So you can personalize it and switch it up throughout the week, and it's a great way to make sure that you're getting all your colors as well. Sandwiches and wraps are another great option, and of course, bowls. With bowls, I like to use leftovers. So if I have, let's say I made a quinoa and bean salad, I typically tend to make extra grains so that I have to for the next day or to plan for other meals. And so if you have a whole grain as a base or a vegetable as a base, you can create a balanced meal. Have adding a protein, adding other roasted vegetables, other colors, and definitely adding some sort of sauce or healthy fat is important because the oils and the fat also helps absorb the nutrition from the vegetables, and it will also help with your digestion. This is a sample meal plan, and these include things that are easy to find, not necessarily something that everyone has to eat. This is just an example, but I really do like, especially during treatment, depending on how you feel, it's important to make sure that you eat consistently. We're going to talk more about that, and including snacks. I like to incorporate some type of protein with my snacks, so either nuts or nut butter or yogurt, things of the like, because it really does help make sure that you're eating enough throughout the day and that you're including enough protein. Oops. Then another recommendation, just, and this is not part of eating well, but it is part of a healthy lifestyle, is just trying to stay as active as possible. The recommendation is to have to move around 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity or 75 to 100 minutes of vigorous intensity. This helps reduce cancer risk, and it also helps maintain muscle mass. It helps with your mood during treatment. And it is helpful to fight fatigue during treatment as well. So incorporate exercise as you can, and obviously it's important to make sure that you discuss it with the doctor to make sure that you are clear to do any type of physical activity. So, make sure that you do something that you enjoy doing. I like dancing, so I make sure like a couple of times a week I go out dancing, or I dance at home, or I take a dance class. Um, and or you could do, now that is the summer, playing sports if you're able to do that as well. That is a fun way of just staying active and something that you enjoy. Especially when you're working from home, you tend to be sitting down often. And so it can be challenging to stay active. So I always suggest to track your steps and become aware of how much you're actually walking or moving throughout the day, and then improve upon that. Maybe make it a point to stand up every hour, every couple of hours, take a couple of steps, or go out, take out the trash, and come back using the stairs, right, instead of the elevator. Making it into a game to make sure that you're not sitting down too much. It's also helpful, again, to fight fatigue and maintain your muscle mass. It's good to aim between 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day. If you're not there yet, it's okay. It's always good to find a target that works for you and get there slowly, especially when you're in treatment. We don't want to overdo it so that you're exhausted from working and from walking all day, right? So make sure that you are aware of how much you're walking, and then improve it every day until you are at a number that you tolerate and that you enjoy. Okay, so let's talk about nutrition considerations during treatment. Nutrition during treatment, we want to the main thing is maintaining your weight. It's important to avoid losing muscle. We want to make sure you're eating a balanced diet. We need to tackle your digestion. How well are you tolerating different foods, maybe the side effects? And we also want to make sure that you're having a good quality of life, that you're eating or getting enough energy to be productive and work if you're working or looking for work, etc. Also, another thing that we have to take into consideration is hydration, food safety, and also physical activity. Let's start with food safety. It's different. So when you're doing treatment, it's different when someone is going for a transplant, right? We call it the precautions for food safety for someone who's undergoing a transplant. We call them neutropenic precautions, and this is, it can be very strict, right? So someone who is in these recommendations, they're not able to have liquid yogurt or yogurt beverages like kefir. You cannot have anything pre-cut or raw fruits and veggies and things like that. So it's important to keep that in mind. But when you're in radiation or chemotherapy, all we need is just to follow common sense when it comes to food safety, making sure that you're washing your fruits and vegetables properly, that you cook your meat and fish well done, avoiding raw fish and meat. Also, being careful with leftovers, especially if we're bringing food to work, making sure that there's a space where we can refrigerate our meals properly, etc. Maybe using insulated food boxes or lunch boxes to make sure they're handled properly. It's good to avoid buffets, salad bars, anything that, the food is sitting out, people are sharing condiments. It's good to limit that because, it's a risk. So we want to make sure that we're not exposed, or because our immune system are more sensitive, and so we want to minimize any exposure to any foodborne illness. So when it comes to taste changes, this is a very common one, and it can be very challenging, because you're not the food tastes different, right? And it can be challenging to even want to eat. Oftentimes, patients who struggle with taste changes, they can taste sweet and sour. So it's important to take advantage of those flavors that you taste, and sort of um, incorporate it with foods that are high in protein, high in calories during treatment. Um, so, for example, incorporating a marinade, or instead of using chicken or meat or fish, using beans, yogurt, dairy, cheeses for protein. Um, if you're experiencing metallic taste, it's always good to avoid metallic utensils and focus on using plastic utensils. Um, also changing the textures up is also helpful, especially when the food doesn't taste the same. It's good to try changing the texture up and trying different marinades and sauces. When it comes to water, also water can be challenging when someone is experiencing this side effect. It's important you can add to some type of maybe cranberry juice or an electrolyte beverage to the water to change the flavor up. Some lime or lemon, things of the like, making sure that you get creative. When it's very common to also have very low appetite, and this is very very challenging because we don't feel the urge to eat, especially if you're working. You might tend to forget to eat, and we don't want that because you might end up losing weight really fast, and the goal is to minimize weight loss as much as we can to maintain our muscle mass. So it's important to schedule your meals in, especially to my clients and patients who are working. Um, it's good to schedule in and create like an alarm, right? To make sure to remind yourself to eat. Small frequent meals, especially if you're getting full fast, is good to eat. I rather you have a snack every 2 hours than wait till the end of the day whenever you feel hungry and have only one meal. Okay, so uh, it's important to make sure that you are including high calorie, high protein meals, especially if you're eating less, to make sure that you get more nutrition in a smaller amount. And also, whenever it's time to eat, it's good to have that schedule, because as you know that meal is coming, avoid having a lot of fluids right before eating, because then that will fill you up more and you might tend to eat less. Also, another idea is to use nutrition drinks and shakes. There's a lot of that. There's a lot that are ready to drink. You can also make your own. Let me see. And there we go. The other side effect is nausea. And so it's important to, as soon as you wake up, if you notice that the nausea is more in the morning, start with something dry, and then see if that helps settle the stomach, and then do small frequent meals also throughout the day. Oftentimes when you're experiencing nausea and you spend a lot of time without eating, it becomes worse. Also, don't be afraid of taking the anti-nausea medication that the doctor gave you. It's there for a reason, and is to make sure that you are eating well. Okay, so starting with something dry, starchy foods are good because it helps sort of settle the juices of the stomach, and they're easy to digest. And the other thing is maintaining hydration the best that you can. Sometimes things like gelatin can be a good source of hydration, ice pops, um, and the like. And sometimes, electrolyte drinks are helpful because the taste is better than just water. Going for cool room temperature dishes rather than warm dishes is also helpful because the warm dishes have more of an aroma that could trigger nausea versus, let's say, an egg salad or a pasta salad. It's cold and it doesn't have as much of an aroma and you could tolerate it better, or a bean salad even. And sometimes ginger tea and mint tea they're always helpful, or um, ginger drops are always helpful as well for nausea. When it comes to diarrhea, it's important to make sure that you call your medical team to make sure that the diarrhea is not related to an infection. And then if it's not, it's always good to take medication to manage it as needed. And it's good to have more of a bland diet while you're sort of juggling the diarrhea. We call it the bratty diet: banana, rice, applesauce, toast, tea, and yogurt. These are easy foods to digest. It's good to have it temporarily until you figure out the source of the diarrhea, and then you can go back to your regular foods. Hydration is really important, and we also often recommend having sport drinks as well. Oftentimes, when we're on treatment, we can become lactose intolerant. So it's also good to limit lactose, maybe switch to lactose free milk or lactose free dairy items if you enjoy dairy, and focusing more on a low fiber diet, but more fiber that is more soluble, meaning the fiber that we find in the smooth nut butters, in rice, plain rice, right? Bananas, um, and oats versus more of a rough fiber that we find in like raw fruits and vegetables like kale, or a lot of quinoa, a lot of beans, right? It's good to minimize that if you're having frequent diarrhea and focus more on those soluble fibers, and eating proteins that you tolerate, perhaps a more softer, lower fat sort of chicken, or maybe boiled egg and things of the like. And during treatment, we want to keep moving as much as we can, right? It helps improve our appetite, it helps our immune system, our mood. If you have diabetes and you're also going through treatment, it also helps control our blood sugar. It doesn't have to be all at once. You can make sure that you can walk throughout your day, incorporate it into your work day, and make it part of your habits. That's a good way of incorporating physical activity, and especially doing something that you enjoy. Okay, so far I'm just gonna see if I have a question here, and I can answer it now before we jump into what about. Someone asked if it's okay to do intermittent fasting. I wouldn't recommend it during treatment. Um, Number one, we absorb protein more efficiently when we distribute it throughout the day, right? And during treatment, it's so important to make sure that we're eating enough protein. And so I wouldn't recommend intermittent fasting during treatment. However, if that's something that you're interested in doing, I would do it after treatment and definitely discuss it with the doctor to see what is the purpose of the fasting. If it's is it for you to lose weight, or do you have digestive issues? See, the main reason why you wanna fast. If it's for losing weight, I would say, do make sure that you're having enough protein, and make sure that you are eating enough each time you eat to avoid overeating the next time, because oftentimes, when you jump into fasting really fast, it can trigger overeating the next time you allow yourself to eat. So I would say if you decide to do it, I would say after treatment and ease into it. Perhaps start with 3 meals and no snack, then push breakfast back and keep pushing it back until you're happy with the amounts of times that you want to eat throughout the day. But always important to consult it with the doctor, and I wouldn't recommend it if you're in radiation or chemotherapy. Wouldn't recommend it because it's important that you use protein efficiently, and eating it throughout the day is the way to go. A little bit of protein in each meal is going to be really helpful. Let's talk about organics because that is it's very a question that I get all the time: do I have to buy everything organic? And the answer is no, you don't have to buy everything organic. It's really expensive and it's really unclear the data on it. The USDA define organic as meat, poultry, and eggs or dairy that has been raised without any antibiotics or growth hormones, and the plant foods are grown without conventional pesticides or fertilizers. There's no bioengineering, and they use this special radiation to minimize pests and foodborne illnesses, so they don't use that in organic. Conventional organic foods will still have some types of pesticides, but the same as conventional, but it's so minimal. So there's really not a lot of risk involved when we eat conventional produce, and it's very unclear. So it's always better to eat any kind of vegetable than no vegetables at all. So if you don't feel like you can afford, let's say, organic spinach, it's okay to have the conventional because you'll get more benefit if you don't versus not having any vegetables. So that's number one. Number two, there's a list that we call the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, is by the Environmental Working Group, and it can be useful if you decide to buy organic. You can use this list, and you can if buy the organic foods that are listed in the Dirty Dozen. For example, I love spinach, so whenever possible, I always get it organic because it's one of is in the Dirty Dozen list. It means that these 12 foods may have, we don't really know, they may have a little bit more pesticide residue than the average, but it's very unlikely. But if you wanna focus on organic, you can follow the Dirty Dozen. The Clean 15, these foods, they don't really use any of the conventional pesticides, and so they're known as clean. So if you see organic avocados, you don't really need to buy organic avocados, even if you want to eat organic. So that's another way that they get more money because they label it as organic. It's considered one of the clean foods that they really, they're not exposed as much. And so, what about sugar? So, one question that we get asked a lot is, does sugar feed cancer? And the answer is, all cells require glucose for energy, and we need it, right? It's different. There's different types of carbohydrates that affect us differently. So complex carbohydrates versus simple carbohydrates. The sugar that we want to be more mindful of is the added sugars, the sugars that come from sodas, juices, and the like, or desserts, the sugar that we add into the coffee or anything that we're adding. And so that's the type of sugar that we want to be mindful, but not because it will cause cancer or will feed cancer, more because we want to maintain a healthy weight. When we gain a lot of weight, we increase risks for cancer and also other chronic diseases, and we want to make sure that we're mostly consuming carbohydrates that will give us the fiber, vitamins, and minerals that we need versus added sugars that will not provide any of that. So from that perspective, you can have some sugars. There's different recommendations across the board when it comes to how much added sugar we can have. For example, the American Heart Association will recommend having only 6% of the total calories a day versus, that's for someone who has heart disease, and it makes sense, right? Because we want to make sure that they're staying at a healthy weight and they control their diabetes. But in general, the recommendation is to have around 10% of your total calories. So that means that if you're having a 2000 calorie diet, and you're having 10%, then that means possibly having 200 calories a day from added sugars. And that's equal to about 12 teaspoons of sugar a day. So definitely minimizing sodas, juices, and the like. But if you want to have a treat, or if you like to have some juice in the morning, you can certainly have it, but we want to make sure that you're having foods that will give you protein, fiber, and things that are more nutritionally dense. And then I get a lot of questions about soy, and soy is perfectly safe to consume. Especially, I get questions from patients who are undergoing cancer treatments or have a breast cancer. And so it's totally safe to consume the whole food. There's actually evidence that it helps decrease cancer risk when we have it in moderation. Tofu, miso, tempeh, the whole food is good, but we want to be careful is the added soy, like in supplements, soy protein isolate, soy protein concentrate, soy flour, and soy fiber, sorry. Those are the things that we want to be careful with, but in general, you can certainly have the whole foods coming from soy, and it's a good source of protein. And then, really quickly, after survivorship, we want to maintain a good weight. We want to maintain muscle mass, so staying active, making sure that you are eating enough, making sure you're eating your fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. Obviously, to help maintain a good weight, we want to minimize added sugary drinks, limiting consumption of energy dense foods like fried foods, chips, and desserts, and the like. But it's okay to have some, limiting red meats, as we mentioned in the beginning. The recommendation is typically once or twice a week. It doesn't mean that you have to, but try that should be the max, and the serving size should be like the size of the palm of your hand, a quarter of a plate. And it's always recommended now, the recommendation is to avoid alcohol as much as possible, but if you do enjoy alcohol, you can have one drink for women and two drinks for men. Limiting consumption of processed foods, and it's not good to take supplements for the sake of preventing or protecting against cancer. And so it's good to take supplements as you need to fix any deficiencies, especially if you're a vegan or vegetarian. But it's good to stay away from overtaking supplements for the sake of protecting against cancer. Is not recommended. And continue meal planning, and to support eating well both on work days and non-work days. And it's also important to make sure that you have a discussion with a registered dietitian that can help you plan meals targeted for you and your needs. And make sure that you reach out. And also, these are some recommended resources that are great for patients and caregivers. Sorry. And so I think we can jump into questions. I see there's some questions already.
Just quickly before we get into questions, I want to go over some of our upcoming events. So in just a few weeks, we have our national conference coming up. which is going to be on June 21st, Friday, June 21st, from 8:45 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We have some really great sessions and speakers there, and I hope you'll join us for that. You can find more information at the link in this slide, and you should have received a copy of these earlier today. I think Rachel also might be dropping a link in the chat now, so you can click through. And then stay tuned for our West Coast conference, which is also going to be happening virtually as well. That will be sometime in October, and we'll be announcing that soon. Okay. We also have more webinars coming up next month. We are doing Balancing Work and Cancer, which is sort of our flagship presentation. We hope you'll join us for that. That's going to be on July 10th. Then after that, we have the following 2 months after that, we have a 2-part Communicating Effectively presentation, which is also going to be really great. That's going to be on August 7th and September 11th. Those are both going to be at 6 p.m. as well. All of the upcoming sessions, we do these monthly, so there are a few more throughout the year, can be found at this link as well, and maybe Rachel will drop the link to that as well to the chat. And then if you have any questions that we didn't get to today, here's my email. Feel free to reach out to me. You can also reach out to cancerandcareers@cew.org, and somebody will get an answer back to you for anything that you have, either that we didn't get to today, or if you think of something, tomorrow or this weekend, a month from now, whenever, feel free to reach out. And we hope that you'll also follow us on social media. Those are all of our handles, as well as our newsletter and our website. And then as we go into Q&A, I will leave up the CE requirements again. Again, the link to the evaluation is going to pop up in your browser at the end of today's session. If you can't do it today, that's totally fine. An email will be sent out tomorrow afternoon, no later than 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So keep an eye out for that if you can't do it tonight. So our Q&A is popping off here. I'm going to try to get through as many as we can. Let's see. With protein shakes, don't a lot of them contain high amounts of sugar and fat and therefore needed to be avoided?
They don't necessarily have to be avoided, especially during treatment. Some patients have lost a lot of weight and they do need the extra calories. So it's okay to take it for a certain period of time until your weight is back to normal. And a lot of them have added fiber as well that will help sort of delay the absorption of the added sugars. And so it's okay to use them for a period of time until you feel better and can eat a normal diet. But you don't need to avoid them completely, right? And it's always good to make your own. I think
That
I
was going to be
think
my next question. Is there any difference of like making your own at home with some protein powder versus like getting
yeah.
it in a store or something like that that's already?
Sometimes, for convenience sake, it's always good. It's much easier and convenient to get it ready to drink. So that's why we look at these shakes, right? We look at them as convenient, but you don't have to drink them. If you're able to make your own, go for it. I like to use an unflavored protein powder, especially when you have those taste changes that you're not able to eat your chicken, your eggs, because you don't like it so much. So getting an unflavored protein powder and using it with things like probably making high protein pancakes, or adding it to just fruit and nothing else, right? Because it's more tart. That could be a really useful tool to getting some protein without overdoing it with the added sugars if you don't want to.
That's great. A clarifying question on the exercise ranges you were giving earlier. Is that per day or per week?
Yeah, that is per week. Yes.
And then a few people have asked this. I'm going to kind of paraphrase, so I'm hoping I'm getting the same intent from the couple people there. But a few people have stated that they have no desire to eat. And, are there any suggestions on how to overcome that, or maybe, kickstart an appetite in some way? Does medical cannabis help with any of that, maybe?
Yeah, Medical cannabis might help. Everyone reacts different to it. That's what I found, right? For some patients, they make them very tired and more groggy. For others, it works for the appetite. So it really depends. You can also ask for appetite stimulants that are prescribed. Those you could take for a short period of time. Some of them have some side effects, but if you take them for a short period of time until you sort of to get you over this sort of very low appetite, at least for you to gain some weight, you could, discuss that with your doctor. Other than that, staying active, exercise really opens up the appetite. And if you're able to move a little bit, even if it's just walking around the house, right? Or walking, a few steps more every day, that really helps opening up. Interacting with people also, having lunch with your coworkers, or calling someone and have eating while talking to someone on the phone, that also helps stimulate the appetite. And also being in a, getting some fresh air, eating next to a window, that also helps. But yeah, and and I think that's the most challenging thing. So sometimes you have to look at food as part of your treatment, as a medication. And if you're not able to have normal meals, at least snack every few hours, little things that will give you protein to at least help you maintain your weight and not lose anymore.
Yeah, we talk a lot about an example of a woman we met a few years ago who was feeling nauseous at work and not really at home.
Mm,
And uh, after going back and forth with questions, we found out that like her office was right next to the cafeteria and smells were wafting in. So it
yeah,
might also be in a certain environment you're in. And for her, we recommended having a reasonable accommodation requested of moving her office further down the hall.
exactly.
So if that's possible too, it might be worth looking into if you can change your actual physical environment or something like that. I think probably.
Yes.
Uh, Another question: is it better to eat frequent small meals or less frequent medium meals?
It depends on you, right? If someone is having a lot of nausea, I will do smaller, frequent meals. It also depends on your appetite. Maybe you're not able to have medium meals and you're able to have small meals. It depends on the person and the stage of treatment that you are in. It's a very personal preference, but the bottom line is to be consistent, right? We want to make sure that you're eating well throughout the day.
Uh, how about would gluten-free and vegan desserts, quote unquote, be more healthy than standard desserts made with flour, butter, etc.?
And you said that if gluten-free vegan desserts are healthier.
Are they more healthy than
Uh,
standard made with flour and butter and all of that good stuff?
yeah, I think we can compare them because it depends, right? If I'm having gluten-free dessert, maybe I'm allergic to wheat, so gluten-free is healthier for me, right? So it depends on the person's needs. I think both, as I say to a lot of my patients, both are game. It depends on what you will like and you prefer. They both have a lot of added sugar, so we have to treat them as, added sugar, even though they're gluten free and vegan, right? And so we really want to be mindful with the serving size on both. But both are okay if you can tolerate dairy and wheat, go for it. If you prefer vegan or gluten free because of health conditions, go for it. But don't feel like you have to eat vegan or gluten free during cancer treatment because it's better. Both are going to be, you know, still desserts, but both are okay to have in moderation and you can enjoy them.
So we're getting close to the end of time. We have time for a few more questions. Again, if we can't get to your question today, we're so sorry, but shoot us an email at canceringcareers@cew.org, and we will try to get you an answer as fast as we can. The next one I have is sort of related to that last one. Oftentimes I find myself eating comfort foods to cope with stress. Do you have any suggestions on tips on how to stay mindful or choose healthy foods while dealing with work-related stress and cancer treatment or recovery?
That's a good question. I think making sure that you are eating consistently, it's important. Oftentimes when we're stressed, we tend to skip meals and then the follow we're starving and it's normal to overeat because we haven't eaten in a while. And so it's important to make sure that you're eating consistently and you don't skip meals. The other thing that is helpful is making sure that you're adding things that are high fiber, high protein, because those are going to help you stay more satiated in the long run. And it's going to be helpful to, sort of calm down those sort of cravings. And it's okay to have comfort foods here and there, just making sure that we're giving priority to those foods that are going to give us the nutrition that we need during treatment, those protein, the fiber, the vitamins, minerals. And okay to enjoy some of the foods throughout the week, it's totally fine, but making sure that you're having balanced meals with fiber and protein so that when it's time to have your comfort food, you're eating enough, and you feel satiated with a good amount versus overeating it.
So I think this will be our last question. Uh, Again, so sorry if we didn't get to your questions, but the last one I have here is, what are some foods that we should always try to have on hand in our kitchens so we can quickly pull together a healthy meal on really busy days?
Yeah, I really enjoy canned beans. Canned beans, uh, tuna. It's great. You can add it to a salad. Both canned beans and tuna, you can add them to salads. You can make a quick stew with the canned beans. I would definitely always have on hand canned beans and tuna and even sardines if you're into that. If you're not into that, then maybe trying, you know, high protein cereals or whole grain cereals, oatmeal. I always liked having for a quick, hearty breakfast. So it depends on your likes, and it's always good to plan to make sure that you know you have things that you can put together really quickly, and then when you have more time, you can sort of cook a little bit more extra, so you can do other things. For example, the example that I made with the rice. If you make extra rice, you can make the next day stir fry rice, or if you make extra noodles, you can make stir fry noodles. And so it's good to keep that in mind.
Yeah, we talk a lot too about using energy wisely. So, like, if you know that you're going to go into a treatment and you're going to be knocked out for a few days, like,
Yeah.
meal prep a little bit beforehand, the day before, something like that. As long as you're keeping it stored safely and all of the stuff you were hitting on earlier, might be a good option too.
Yeah, definitely. And also, don't using things that are ready to eat. If you know that you're gonna be very tired right after, having yogurts that you can open up and eat, maybe having protein bars that you enjoy, having maybe you can go to the supermarket and get chicken noodle soup that you like, that is ready to eat, and plan ahead that way.
Well, Carla, thank you so much for this. This was wonderful. I've been taking notes myself on things to incorporate into my own day-to-day life. Thank you all for joining us. We hope you'll see us again next month. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.